Ozark Highlands Radio is brought to you by the Ozark Folk Center State Park in Mountain View, Arkansas, a wonderful way to enjoy yesterday. On the web at ozarkfolkcenter.com.
Hey everybody, this is Dave Smith, host of Ozark Highlands Radio. Welcome to our show. This week we'll be hearing the fine music of Dennis Stroughmatt, who is single-handedly preserving the musical traditions of the French Creoles who settled in what is now the state of Missouri over 300 years ago. We'll also be going down to the vault to see what musical gem from the past Mark Jones has picked out this week, and we'll hear from Charley Sandage about traditional dance in the Ozarks. All that and more this week on Ozark Highlands Radio. Over 300 years ago, before the Louisiana Purchase, France owned most of the land west of the Mississippi River. French explorers who came up the river found a paradise of good farmland, furs, and more importantly, seams of rich lead ore called galena. Before long, French Creole settlers were building farms and digging mines in the hilly country south of present-day St. Louis, Missouri. These settlers brought with them a Creole fiddling style that has somehow stayed alive in remote parts of the region. Taught to play fiddle by local Creole fiddlers Roy Boyer and Charlie Pasha in the tradition of their fathers, Dennis Stroughmatt gradually became an adopted son of the French Midwest Creoles living along the Mississippi River near St. Louis. Here's Dennis Stroughmatt with a set of great tunes recorded live on stage at the Ozark Folk Center State Park.
Thank you. So, how many of y'all here came here to hear some Cajun music? We don't play Cajun music. We play French music from Illinois.
Hey, they're still out there.
They're still here. Hey, they didn't leave yet. All right, well, actually, it's true. Although we may end up playing maybe one or two Cajun songs, we're actually here to play Illinois French Creole music for you. French Creole music from southern Illinois and southeast Missouri and southwestern Indiana. They still haven't left. But
They're convinced now.
they're convinced. Okay.
Our area really is kind of a combination of really two kind of major musical factors in southeastern Illinois. We don't really have like a bluegrass or old time tradition per se, musically. You essentially have some of the French traditions along the Wabash in southern Illinois, which, where we are pretty much is right up against southern Indiana, which, you have towns like Vincennes, you've got St. Francisville, and we have the French, his heritage and musical traditions of that area, sort of butting up against a newer tradition that came in the 1920s and 30s. And that's actually Western swing music. So our music is a very weird mix in some ways.
All right, well, we're going to do a song here for you. This is one of my favorite tunes, a waltz that I learned from a lady named Annie Paget in the Old Mines, Missouri area. She's was one of the French speakers in the area that I learned to do a lot of the ballads from. It's a song called La Belle Blondine is the name of it. Essentially what happens in this song is a daughter who is the Belle Blondine, the pretty blonde. She becomes very upset with her father in the story, decides to kill him and bury him under the cellar, in the house. So this is a very pretty tune, and
Creole love song.
that's right. It's a Creole love story. So we hope you enjoy it, and it gives you warm and fuzzies after you hear it. C'est la belle blondine, Marilona. C'est la belle blondine qui fait une chanson.
Pour la chanson commence, Marilona. Pour la chanson commence, son père a tué. Dans la cave enterrée. Dans la cave enterrée, dans la cave enterrée, car elle doit te blondinade. Marilona, car elle doit te blondinade. Boro qui arrive, Boro qui arrive, Boro qui arrive. On dit de moi blondina, Marilona. On dit de moi blondina, où est-ce qu'il lève au pain?
Thank you.
I myself was really kind of longing to hear more of the French music that we had too, and no one spoke French anymore. in our area, and along the Wabash. So there was just some of the music, fiddle tunes, but not really any language. And so that's what eventually led me over to southwestern Illinois, south of St. Louis, in that area. So I found out about that and kind of got into that and started going over there and trying to find out more about our own past by going over there, because they had held on to the traditions longer over in southwestern Illinois. So that led me over there, which also eventually led me to a pocket of the culture in southeast Missouri. But what happened over in southeast Missouri that happened different than in southeastern Illinois, in southwestern Indiana, is they held on to the language in southeast Missouri.
Okay. Well, anyway, all right. We're going to do a fiddle tune for you, and I'm just going to shut up for a few minutes. Let's do a little bit of Old Man Lucky.
Oh, man, lucky.
Yeah. Some called Vieux homme la chance. Thank you. That was an old song that came from a great fiddle player by the name of Charley Paget. Charley was a great fiddle player that lived in the old mines area of Missouri. And all these tunes that we're doing, these are all songs that come from southeast Missouri or southern Illinois or southwestern Indiana, which is our pocket of French culture in what was called the Illinois country, or in French is Le Pays des Illinois.
What happens is I find recordings that had been made by Alan Lomax in the 1930s of some of the last French speakers in my communities, in my area. And then I eventually find this, and I'm like, oh, wow. Everything that I had learned in this other community, though related to mine, opened up the window back into my own. And so all of a sudden, I get a deeper sense of connection to my own community, because now I can understand the historical context of the stories in the songs. Now I can actually repatriate those songs back to the communities in our area, that it's sort of been lost in some ways. And so it's been great fun these last 10, 15 years, because, we've resurrected the Mardi Gras celebrations, some of the old French celebrations that have been held in the Vincennes, St. Francisville area. We've been able to bring those back, teach people some of the words, and the language, and all the French families, the Bouillers, the Cardinals, the Aubuchons, the Curés, were able to take the songs back to the families and say, all right, here's the heritage.
And this is another tune that comes from the Illinois country, a song called D'où viens-tu, bergère, which means, "Oh shepherd, where do you come from?" This is actually a Christmas tune that I learned from a great singer by the name of Ida Portel. Also, she was a very sweet lady. Anyway.
It's not looking good for you.
I know, yeah. So, yeah. Est-il beau, Benjamin? Est-il beau? Est-il beau, Benjamin? Est-il beau? Plus beau que la lune et que le soleil. Mais dans le monde, je vais s'en parler. Ça c'est tout, Benjamin, ça c'est tout, ça c'est tout, Benjamin, ça c'est tout. Et vous captez les anges, le son du ciel, dans les louanges du Père éternel. Ça c'est tout, Benjamin, ça c'est tout, ça c'est tout, Benjamin, ça c'est tout. Et vous captez les anges, le son du ciel, dans les louanges du Père éternel.
That was Creole fiddler Dennis Stroughmatt playing La Belle Blondine and Old Man Lucky. Dennis finished that set with "Oh Shepherd, Where Did You Come From?" Let's take a short break, after which we'll head down to the vault to visit with my old pal Mark Jones. You're listening to Ozark Highlands Radio. Welcome back to Ozark Highlands Radio. Let's take a trip down to the vaults under the Folk Center. We do this every week. We got a fine man down there, Mark Jones. He's the sound engineer here at the Folk Center, and he spends his days shuffling around looking at the old music that we've got stored down in the vault. So we'll take a trip down there and see him.
Hey, Dave. I'm so glad you came down to see me.
Well, it's kind of dingy down here. We need to get you some light bulbs, Mark.
Well, we got to save money as much as we can.
I see what you mean. What kind of music have you got picked out for us this week?
You know, Dave, there's folk music, old-time music, and then there's another kind of music that was played around here some. It's called bluegrass. And one of the finest bluegrass banjo players that I can remember being around these parts was a feller named Walter Gosser.
I remember Walter. He played that three-finger style, didn't he?
He sure did, and played it good and sung a real high tenor.
That's right, Mark. You know, mostly around here, most of our banjo players play the style called clawhammer or frailing or drop thumb banjo. That was the original style, probably, that came across the Appalachian Mountains with the original settlers here. But as we all know, back around the 1940s or so, Bill Monroe came up with that bluegrass style, and bluegrass banjos become pretty popular too.
And then on the recording that we're going to listen to, Mike Hill, who taught English around here, he played mandolin. And then, of course, you got Dean Hinesley playing guitar. And it's really good. I enjoy him.
What's the name of this one, Mark?
Roving Gambler.
Let's have a listen.
All right.
I am a roving gambler. I've gambled all around. Wherever I meet with a deck of cards, lay my money down. Lay my money down, lay my money down. I had not been in Frisco many more weeks than 3 when I fell in love with pretty little girls who fell in love with me. Fell in love with me, fell in love with me. She took me in her parlor, she cooed me with a fan, and she whispered low in her mother's ear, love this gambling man. Love this gambling man, love this gambling man. Oh dear daughter, how can you treat me so, and leave your dear old mother and with a gambler go? With a gambler go, with a gambler go. Oh dear mother, I'll tell you if I can, if you ever see me coming back, I'll be with the gambling man. With the gambling man, with the gambling man. I left her in Frisco, I wound up in Maine. I met up with a gambling man and we got in the poker game. Got in the poker game, got in the poker game. We put her money in the pot, dealt the cards around, and I saw him dealing from the bottom of the deck, so I shot the gambler down. Shot the gambler down, shot the gambler down. Now I'm down in prison, got a number for my name, and the warden told me as he locked the door, you gambled your last game. Gambled your last game, gambled your last game. I am a roving gambler, I've gambled all around. deck of cards, lay my money down. Lay my money down, lay my money down.
Oh boy, that Walter could sing the high tenor, couldn't he?
Oh, he sure could. Some of the fondest memories hearing him sing high tenor. There for a while, Dan Hassler owned the Mountain View Auto Parts here in Mountain View, and every Thursday night we'd have pickings there in the back of the auto parts store. And boy, before you got to the door, you could hear Walter singing a high tenor, and he sure sounded good. Good, strong voice.
Well, that was a great song from Walter Gosser, Mike Hill, and Dean Hinesley. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Dave.
A vibrant blend of Celtic, Canadian, and old-time sounds, Dennis Stroughmatt's fiddling bridges the gap between contemporary Canadian and Louisiana Cajun styles. Preserved by families in the Ozark foothills, the music remains largely intact and true to the traditions that have been passed down for over 3 centuries. Here's some more of his fine fiddling.
Okay, this is a tune, something called Je fais une maîtresse, is the name of it, which means I found a maiden. And this is a tune that would be called a chanson de métamorphose, is the name of it. We call it the changeling song. Essentially, it's a story about a guy who falls in love with a girl and says, I'm going to come and marry you on Sunday. And she says, well, if you come on Sunday, I will not be there. He says, well, if you won't be there, I'll chase after you. She says, well, if you chase after me, I'll turn into a bird and fly away. He says, well, then I'll turn into a bird and fly after you. She says, well, then I'll turn into a doe. And he's like, I'll turn into a buck and I'll chase after you. And she says, well, then I'll turn into a fish and I'll swim off. And he says, well, I'll turn into a bigger fish. And so he goes through all these different animals. They go through several more animals changing. He's running. The guy continues chasing after her. And somehow, changing all through these different animals, he gets to the end of the song and he drowns. So, anyway, we'll do the tune here for you. Je fais une maîtresse.
J'ai fait une maîtresse il y a pas longtemps. J'ai fait une maîtresse il y a pas longtemps. J'ai dû voir le dimanche, mon gilet. Venant le dimanche, le monde m'a bien aimé. Je ne serai pas. Tu viens le dimanche. Je ne serai pas. Tu me mettrais une bouche dans un état. De moi tu n'aurais pas. Pas d'encantement. Si tu mettrais une biche dans un beau champ, si tu mettrais une biche dans un beau champ, tu me
Just in the last several years to, the Smithsonian, the Library of Congress has had us perform, the Kennedy Center, and they've, because guys like Joe Polite and Charlie Paggi had performed at the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian too, back in the 70s. Some of the, Charlie, who I learned from, one of the fiddle players, they performed there before. Well, the assumption was after they performed that at some point the music just died, in the 80s, and it's gone. Well, nobody knew, I guess, that I had been there, and spent years, learning the material. And then so now people have kind of been like, wow, we thought it was dead, and there's this guy that's actually playing the music. And that's just how I learned to play. I didn't even know that it was important. I really didn't. I didn't go there to be important. I mean, it's kind of like I was just having fun, hanging out, learning about my own history. And what happens in the process is people like the music, and they're like, wow, this is different. And so, we've been asked to play all over the country, Canada, going to Canada next spring.
We have a season, you might say, that begins around Christmas, and there are several songs that kind of go with that season. And what happens is on New Year's Eve, you have the very first traditional feast or fete that happens, and the biggest bouillon of the year, and this happens in Prairie du Rocher, Illinois. Essentially, this is a tradition in which people would dress up in costume and put on masks and go house to house begging for food and for drink. And the idea is not to drink everything and eat everything right on the spot. The idea is to save much of this through the season of what is called Carnival. Because 6 days after the what's called La Guillonnée on New Year's Eve, they have what's called the 12th night ball. And the 12th night, 12 days after Christmas. But this is the song that accompanies the running of the Guillonnée. When people go house to house, it starts as soon as dusk comes. Groups, now there's just one main group, like in Prairie du Rocher and St. Jean, go house to house begging for food. And this goes until midnight. This is how long it will go. And you go to many, many houses. And you sing this song, which is the begging song, a part of it, something called La Guillonnée is the name of the Guillonnée song. And this song is known to be probably at least 700 or 800 years old. And that's on the short end. It's probably much older. Kiji.
Soit la maître et la maîtresse, y était de bonne douloureux. Ou la dernière jolaine, c'était la gonne nous tu Si vous voulez nous donner des têtes de lait, si vous voulez nous donner des têtes de lait, on se voit le monde, le sud, le monde, un astiné.
And we're starting to get people interested, and by getting, especially like in the language, in the music, but it's got to start somewhere, and it really has to start with the language, I think, more than anything. I mean, the music you can do, but that language barrier is always going to be there. So we finally starting to get people interested in like doing classes and workshops that I'm doing, that people are being held through the Old Mines Historical Society and places like that. I'm doing them over in Vincennes, Indiana, near St. Francisville, through the colleges over there, and we're getting people coming and wanting to learn the language, and younger people too. Some people in middle age, and young people, are just wanting to learn about it. And so this is creating, I think, maybe a groundswell of people who are finally saying, oh yeah, we do have something important here to save.
Okay. Well, we have the benediction. You got to have the benediction at the end of the house, in which the Capitan, he apologizes for coming into your house, getting mud all over your floor, knocking down your chairs, breaking all your bottles. But hey, what are friends are for? So anyway, I go, c'est en effet que comprendis c'est pour nous des ennuis. Si prendons garde la compagnie, pour une raison de n'excuser. Ils nous prennent pardon garde qui va nous c'est la Guyane. Bonsoir la maîtresse, la maîtresse, y est une bonne nous l'obé. And that's it.
Things have changed because, man, when we started, the Fête d'automne, there was like 150 people. Now we see 1,500, come every year to the Fête, which is this weekend. It's on Sunday in Old Mines, and people travel from all over the world now. We have people fly in from Quebec that come to see us perform, mainly because they're just fascinated by our music, because it's not Cajun, it's not Canadian French, it's neither, but it's related.
Chevalier tabironde, mais guton voit chez le vin bon. Chevalier tabironde, mais guton voit chez le vin bon. You know what? Guton voit chez le vin bon. You know what? Guton voit chez le vin bon. Si je veux des commentaires, mais dans un caviar du bon vin. Si je veux des commentaires, mais dans un caviar du bon vin. Dans la gap, come on. Dans un caviar du bon vin. Dans la gap. Dans le gap, il y a du bon vin. Le du pied, quand il a mis la tête sur le robinet.
Creole fiddler Dennis Stroughmatt playing I Found a Maiden, The Begging Song, The Benediction, and Chevalier de la Table Ronde. Don't go away. After this break, historian Charley Sandage will give us his take on Ozark traditional dance. You're listening to Ozark Highlands Radio. Welcome back to Ozark Highlands Radio.
The first thing you'll hear at an evening musical performance in the main auditorium of the Ozark Folk Center is a fiddle setting up the tempo for a square dance. It will be energetic, with unmistakable driving four-count beats, and the tune will be right out of Ozark tradition. This fiddler, Roger Fountain, is a favorite among the dancers, but our list of solid local square dance fiddlers, male and female, young teens to well past retirement age, is a long one. Joe Jewell, in addition to being a musician, represents another important group to the center. He is a versatile traditional dancer and square dance caller.
Well, we always open our shows with a traditional Ozark square dance. Now, these square dances that we do here in the Ozarks are different than anywhere else in the country, even in Appalachia. We do the exact same dances that have been danced here for over 100 years. We're not polished. We don't wear taps. We wear traditional clothes. The dances are done just like they would be at a house party. In fact, in many cases, house parties have a half a dozen of the regular dancers there. And if somebody doesn't really know a dance, we'll pull them through it.
While times for it are written into each night's programs, it's really impossible to predict when someone on stage might break into a step dance.
Then throughout the show, particularly in the first half, they will have what's called a jig dance. And they'll invite anybody out of the audience to come because it is a solo dance, similar to clogging. Clogging is the step done with toes that is done in North Carolina. Jig dancing is like Tennessee flat footing. Your feet are kept low to the ground. It's a rhythmic dance or it's a soft shoe dance, depending on how you do it. There are no definitive steps. It's just get up there and let it go. People call it clogging, not knowing any difference, but there is a difference there. But there's a million steps. There's a lot of the older people do what's called a sticker in the heel, and it's kind of a little limp, look like you're limping a little bit on one leg, and then you limp a little bit on the other. I learned from one of the old-time dancers a shuffle step that you can do on 1 foot or 2 feet together, and all forms of variation of that, which more or less is a shuffle back and forth with a little rhythm going on with your heels.
Couple dances either were or were not part of tradition for Ozark families, depending on which community a person lived in, or even in which decade. If your folks belonged to one or another conservative church, you might not have been allowed to attend any dance at all, although what was called play parties were pretty much universally approved, and they featured movements that were just about identical to square dances, only done to chants instead of fiddle music. But mysteriously, it seems, few Ozark girls grew to womanhood without somehow mastering the basics of the waltz. Perhaps it was just instinctive.
Well, the waltzes are traditional. They're not Viennese waltzes where you just spin, 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 spin. And again, a lot of the dancers that have been dancing for several years have developed their own little styles with little twirl outs. And again, we ask the audience to come join us. And in many cases, we get a lot of tourists and a lot of semi-regular people that come to the shows a lot will come on stage and dance. And some of them are marvelous dancers. And it just is, sometimes the stage is so crowded, it's like bumper cars.
The two-step was a relatively late arrival in the Ozarks as elsewhere.
Yeah, we have another dance that's done quite often throughout the shows, and it's a two-step where you do 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It is danced to 4/4 time music, whereas the waltz is always danced to 3/4 time. The oddball thing is that a waltz, you always count to 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And in the two-step, you count to 3 also. 1, 2, forward, 1 back. 1, 2, forward, 1 back. So you count to 3 in both of them, even though you're dancing to a totally different type of music. And again, we get a lot of people, particularly Texans, that come up that are very good at two-stepping.
As with songs and tunes, dances, and even dance steps performed here can often be traced back through Appalachia to European, often British Isles, roots.
When I was in the Shetland Islands in 2005, I took traditional dance courses over there, my wife and I did, and noticed that they were doing a kind of a step dance called the back step. They called it the Shetland back step. And they did this step the entire time they did their equivalent of their square dancing. So I learned that step and came back here and had a shop up at the Folk Center. One day a lady came in and said, "My father has been the step dance champion, flat foot champion of Tennessee for years. And he has this great step called the Tennessee back step." And it was identical to the Shetland back step. And it just shows you how it came from the old country.
Over the 40-plus years since the Ozark Folk Center began operation, yet another dance tradition has emerged, or more accurately, a long-established tradition has been continued here. Many people come here having never attempted any dance move that wasn't in vogue when they were growing up or that they learned in some formal program. Many of these visitors, or newcomers to the area, finding themselves intrigued with Ozark traditional dance, have put themselves literally into the hands of local dancers to learn. Joe Jewell's wife, Susan, comments on how it goes during such events as the wintertime practice sessions held for aspiring dancers at the center.
Yeah, you have to push and pull and holler and grab them, and yeah, they get manhandled if they want to continue dancing.
Grandma laughed and Grandpa too said, Lordy mercy, what the children gonna do?
And that's how classic Ozark oral tradition works.
That's promenade right off the floor, that's all they hair and they ain't no more.
Thanks, Charlie. With the blessing of the Creole people of the Midwest, Dennis Stroughmatt is its passionate ambassador, expanding interest and excitement in a region that has been, in many ways, ignored by the history books. As a result, the French music, language, stories, and culture once hidden away in the Missouri Ozarks now has a voice in the wider world. Let's wind up this week's show with 3 more tunes by Dennis Stroughmatt. Dennis will play Si Grand Marié, The Burning Desire, and finish up with the Boyer Stomp.
In the morning, because that was when he would come and wake me up with a cup of coffee and say, "Get out of bed! Let's play some music." So we do that all day long, and this is one of the tunes we used to mess around with. Western swing, Hadley Castile style, something called Grand Malais. 1, 2, 3. Je connais grand malheur écarté. Oh, t'es pas les voir tous les jours que tu m'as fait. Je connais grand malheur. Who's that gal with the red dress on? Some folks call her Dinah. Stole my heart away from me way down in Louisiana. Oh, take me back to Tulsa. I'm too young to marry. Take me back to Tulsa. I'm too young to marry.
after having met all these people and I was just enjoying going to the house parties. I just enjoyed being there, and then it's like all of a sudden you realize, well, yeah, I guess I know something, because people start asking you questions. Well, do you know this song? Yeah. You know that song? Yeah. And then they're like, well, could you come and play? Yeah. And then that leads to something else. And probably I guess my biggest crossroads was when I finished my master's and then went to school at the University of Quebec and got my French degree. And it's kind of like, well, now what am I going to do? I realized I could have just gone anywhere, but I essentially just made a conscious decision to just stay in Southern Illinois, near all the French communities, because I felt that if I left, because almost all the people were gone that I'd learned from, that everything I'd learned would go with me. I was just really afraid, for the communities. And so I just made a conscious choice to stay.
All right. Well, this is a tune by another mentor of mine. This guy was a great fiddle player and singer, a guy by the name of Wade Ray. He helped me out a great deal, and this is one of his tunes that Wade did back with his group back in the 1950s, a song called This Burning Desire.
Like the fire, be yours all alone. I'm sick with the yearning, and I'm sick with the pain. From the moment I need you until I'm with you again. So don't make me leave you, 'cause I can't anymore. For I can't hold you tight and say goodnight at your door. If you care about me, darling, put out this fire. Say tonight that you love me, and in this burning desert, I can't anymore. For I can't hold you tight and say goodnight at your door. If you care about me, darling, put out this fire. Say tonight that you love me, and this burning desert.
Thank y'all, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this good Creole fiddling. Don't forget to visit our Facebook page and check out our website at ozarkhighlandsradio.com to listen to past shows. I'm Dave Smith. See you next week.
Ozark Highlands Radio is produced by Jeff Glover. Executive producer is Darren Dorton. Additional support for this program comes from Arkansas State Parks, a division of the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, with 52 unique reasons to visit the natural state. On the web at arkansasstateparks.com. The Committee of 100 proudly supporting the Ozark Folk Center State Park since 1974. And by Stone Bank with roots in Mountain View, Arkansas. Stone Bank is a proud supporter of heritage musicians and small towns across America, with government-guaranteed loans for farmers, entrepreneurs, and communities. More information available at stonebank.com. For information on upcoming shows and events, we are on the web at ozarkhighlandsradio.com. Until next time, I'm Donna Farrar.